let me do the welcome and I'll pass it to you.
Okay.
So welcome to the introduction to the 12-week program that starts next week for Thrive Beyond, Fifth Dimension. We're gonna go today in 1 hour over 6 things. First, a quick intro, 5 minutes, Yati and I, what motivated us to do it, why we hope something like this existed, and because it didn't exist, we decided to build it. Then we're gonna take 15 minutes to go over the structure of the 12 weeks. What are the core topics and practices? Then we're gonna take 10 minutes to explain the core practical concept of learning in community. So there will be a WhatsApp group, weekly meetings, and a combination of other teachers and centers where you can go practice to understand that this really is a blended model. The online part is to support you knowing what is possible to do, and then having a certain series of sites and practitioners you can go deeper with, and have a community where you can ask and learn in a continuous way and with a weekly set of topics. Then we're going to go 10 minutes tapping into the motivation of why we're doing this in a personal case, because this is not a generic course of, there's fortunately lots of online content. So Yati and I will explain the case studies we're doing for our own selves during these months. And then we'll explain the centers like Bhaktishala or La Colmena, Health Excel that are already part of this extended community that brings this really to a complementary practice. And then we'll address any questions about the core program that didn't get addressed in those first 50 minutes. So in the first part, we'll start with a brief intro, about 2 minutes each, of what motivates Yati and I to do this Thrive Beyond fundamentals. Yati, to you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure because learning to thrive is not individual. It's thrive is in a community, because individually we can take a few steps and reach pretty high. I mean, in the sense of feeling very healthy and content, but the thriving is in the community. So that's this step that we all taking, people are present here or watching this. We take the steps of connecting to each other in the sense of learning from each other, supporting each other, because all of us have those days that we feel not enough energy. And like my brother Jan, 2 days ago, I was just sitting there and he came and automatically I was ready to do the practice without him saying anything, without, it just the presence and the intention. Even though I built the place, I created and I practiced daily for 5 years, it doesn't mean that tomorrow I will have the energy again. So thriving together is the right approach to support each other and to go to the next level.
Yeah. Thank you, Yati. And I was very lucky to find Yati through a little bit coincidence of life and to learn the fundamentals with him. But a lot of what we're doing has been birthed in this blue zone of Costa Rica, where Pachamama and Blue Spirit are. I got the privilege to live in Blue Spirit for several years. And like Yati, we got first-hand experience with many of the top, I would say, not just practitioners and teachers, but many of what I would call edge walkers. Many of the people that created the fields, like from Wim Hof or Esther Perel or Johan Halifax, Stefan himself and Tiohar, who created these places. And I was very motivated by understanding, as I traveled around the world, that Costa Rica had shown an example of longevity and vitality that was very consistent with intergenerational sharing, with abundant nature. So I had for a while traveled around the world working in business, innovation, social impact. But I saw many things that promised less stress or less fat, or like, but always with a little bit of a modality of either a quick fix or a compartmentalized way. And I am very excited, as Yati said, thrive is not just to be less stressed, to do what your purpose in life is at its fullest. And we are very lucky to live in an age that has a lot of content. So we're not short of protocols or ideas. What we are short of is the collective attention to bring all this knowledge that already exists, and that we are very lucky to also thank people like Huberman or Peter Attia, and bring them into direct experience and practice, because that's really where the thriving happens. So the key in these 12 weeks is to help all of us connect to our purpose, learning community, but more than to give one prescription for everyone, is to understand together what is possible. 15, 20 years ago, many people did not think what we know is possible today scientifically and in direct experience was possible with breathwork, or with eyes, or for inflammation, or to reverse aging. And the core of working together is to bring what's possible into a community of thriving. So the beyond is beyond the individual. The beyond is beyond content and protocols. And the thing that we're going to go through today, and Yati will start here and I'll go filling in the blanks, is explain how we develop these 12 weeks. Starting next Tuesday, we're going to go 1 week discussing a topic and seeing all the edges that are interesting about oxygen or inflammation. We're about to explain it. And then we're going to have the following week a practical thing that you can take and for 2 weeks practice and bring back. So every time we will be exactly in this dialogue, from the information, science, ancestral wisdom, to the internal practice, back and forth. So now we're going to go for about 12, 15 minutes over the 12 weeks. I'll let Yati start, and I'll go accompanying a little bit this core explanation so you have a sense of what's coming.
Yes, thank you so much for this explanation. Wonderful work, Pablo. So when we were designing this 12 weeks, we realized that we want to fill up our head and start to awakening our intuition, but it cannot go only intellectually. We have to embody it to the body. That's why it's going to be combined with each week we awaken that intellectual and then practicing the meditation. So it's going to be learning, practice. And those practices can be active visualization, meditation, breath work, different types of breath work that you can also go back to those chapters. There will be different chapters of breath work, for example, that you will be able to put play when you need it and to reuse it again. So it's going to be practical, to use.
And in terms of topics, we'll have 6 core topics over the 12 weeks. So next week, we're going to start with one of the most essential topics, which is how oxygen works. Like one of the key things that this planet gives us is oxygen. We have learned recently that the mitochondria, the core of every living thing, it takes oxygen, uses the ATP Krebs cycle. That's how the mitochondria in our digestive system, in our heart, in our muscles, in our brain work. We used to think that as people got older, their mitochondria started to malfunction, decay. Now we know that's exactly the opposite. When the mitochondria gets a lot of unhealthy stresses, being in fight or flight, eating a lot of processed, highly artificial sweeteners, several other practices that are like being always in the presence of screens rather than direct sunlight, we start destroying the natural process of the mitochondria. And then the diseases of aging come in. And living long is not a goal in itself. It's having a long health span. So, for example, when we start to talk about oxygen, we're not going to get too technical, but we're going to explain how fundamental this is. and we're going to share the many things that we now know are possible with hormesis, which is the healthy stress. If you never stress your muscle, it decays. If you never stress your willpower, it decays. If you never stress your oxygen levels. So we explain a very concrete element about oxygen in the body, which is hypoxia. Now, I don't want to get carried away and start giving away week one, because the whole thing is going to change. But we're going to go to things like this. On the second, there'll be a lot of practical breath work where you practice hypoxia. Then we'll discuss topics such as inflammation, which is the core of most disease. Then we will land towards the second half on key topics. For example, how do you build purpose and community in your practice? Most of us may feel something that Jan shared with us today, that we've been exposed over the last few years to new modalities that we find helpful, but it's not automatic to make it into a practice. And it's often not just personal discipline that's missing. It's like a more embodied understanding and a place where you can find attuned guides who can go with you. Because also we don't want to bet on only one thing, like not only ice bathing, not only breathwork. So one of the things that we're going to do, and this is a little bit what I want to explain in the next 10 minutes with Yati, is we are curious, let's say. We bring our knowledge and context of possibilities for what you can do with these practices. But also we have a group of invited guests who are going to help us go deeper. For example, Dax, who has been my personal trainer for many years, and he's a big expert on human mobility and habits, how you really create conscious strength with mobility. And he has been working a lot on looking at eyes with a lot of data, like an Oura Ring, a Whoop, a real-time glucose monitor, and stuff for the people who may need to do something detailed. We have Dr. Caro Castro. She's at the biggest hospital in Costa Rica. She's a medical doctor working with women's health in the gynecology area, but she also is a practitioner of breathwork, eyes, and sound healer. And there's a lot of things we're learning, for example, that happen to women after menopause, during fertility years, that are not helping them thrive with the system as is. So Yati and I will share our areas of expertise, and we'll be bringing some of these people who will also be part of the WhatsApp community. So between the week, it'll be possible to deepen, ask, and understand. And by this weekend, we're going to send a link to everyone that's ready to start next week on Tuesday, a WhatsApp link. So you'll also have a group where in between sessions, we can share and ask between us who are holding the space and our guests. I don't know yet if you want to mention something about the elements of community, maybe also to let people know how we're going to each week send them a quick survey, 2 or 3 questions to make sure we attune to what people are interested in. And we'll send kind of like the notes and summary of each week and the video, just to give people a sense of how the community works.
It will support a lot exactly after each week we will send an email that is following up with what we passed through, and in the email you will have also the video recorded of the same topic that we passed, and also a survey that one can give direction to what things one want to deepen the exploration. So it will give us also a sense, and some of them we will also respond and even go to that direction. So we're also flexible. We have the weeks, but we can adjust some of we will follow the 12 weeks, but we will adjust more into the direction that we need to go as a collective. Yeah.
Great. And then one of the things that I think will be useful to share is our own reasons for wanting to go beyond. We already got a lot of benefits from learning the fundamentals of Wim Hof. I'll share some of my examples and I'll pass to Yati to share some of his.
Yes.
But one of the things we're also doing is we're not coming here as like the teacher with the ultimate expertise. We are doing, in a very exciting way, I think, live case studies for ourselves that we're sharing with top people around the world that are interested in this. In my case, I started with some things that were relatively simple to explain. For example, I had been traveling a lot. I traveled over 300 days a year to conferences and events in 2019, and it was hard to keep my nutrition and health habits, so I had gained a fair amount of fat. And most nutritionists told me, like, if you want to lose fat, you're going to lose muscle. And then, like, or you need. And then I started looking at people who were using key things in terms of how they did exercise and stuff, and talked to Dax, my personal trainer. And he's like, when you include things that really help your body, like breath work, like building brown fat and ice, you can totally just lose the unnecessary fat, the visceral fat, because you cannot do that only with physical training. You cannot do it only with nutrition. But that plus ice and breathwork, I was able to lose the 26 pounds that I had gained unnecessarily without losing any muscle, in fact, gaining a bit. And I'm not even an athlete. So I thought, okay, that's possible. Then I thought, where do I want to take it beyond? I do have an Oura ring and a Whoop, and my sleep wasn't as high quality as it could be. So then I worked with Yati to think, what are the combination of things I can do with sauna, swimming, early morning sun exposure that can really help sleep. One of the weeks, we're going to talk a lot about measurements. One of our guests is running a gym that now he's using a lot of measurements to really understand individualized things. Because we no longer live in an age we need to give generic advice for everyone and see with quick feedback. And now I'm starting to work on the next edge of my case study, which is I've had a low platelet count for many years, over 20 years. And most Western doctors don't understand why, and the treatment would be very complicated. But we're learning more and more that the breathwork, ice, and some of these practices are able to reverse things that are often autoimmune. There are people that have Hashimoto's, that it's a problem of autoimmune, thyroid, or some allergies. And we know Wim Hof himself is very interested now in this new space where things that maybe the body itself finding out of tune, immunity that rather than protect you from viruses is attacking healthy parts of the body, can be reversed and healed. So that's my next case study, will be delving myself into what's possible there. And nothing more exciting to delve with others that are at the edge of this. Because this is both science, but it's science at its freshest. Sometimes academic papers in medicine take 16 years to go from clinical studies to like reviews and stuff. And we want to make sure we have a community where the science and the learning doesn't have to take such a slow process. And the best way is to combine the people around the planet that are ready and interested and rigorous and practicing to learn together. Otherwise, you just complain that the system doesn't deliver what you need, and complaining is not a very healthy energy. So we're excited for those case studies, and each of you will, in a way, develop your own case study. And that's part of the beauty of this. You want to share your perspective on how you're in your own life with these protocols?
Thank you so much. First, I want to admit truly that I'm really impressed from your dedication, because it was just 1.5 years ago we were sitting in the sauna, and you said, I'm gonna give it a try. And you know, I've seen 1,000 people say they give it a try, but I didn't understand the amount of dedication and and I saw how you really every day cold exposure, breathwork, and how really the body start to change. It's really impressive that you're able to bring all your totality, and I think this will support all of us in our own case study. I want to develop my personal learning, my personal case study to 2 parts. The first part will be the challenge, and then the second part will be the success. I would like to start with the challenge. The challenge is that first time I succeed, and soon you will hear what I succeed. But then I decided to take a bigger challenge and to show how my immunity, my immune system can be manipulated to strengthen it, to get stronger immune system. And by putting this intention, I saw how there is also the opposite way that is downgrading me, in a sense, like I started to sabotage myself in many ways. And this is what is happening when you want to start training, you start to eat shit. I mean, and this is me. Now imagine normal people. I start to see this sabotage, and I'm still didn't pass the sabotage, so it still affected me. Basically, I still don't have stronger immune system proven. Although now I want to take you to what I did succeed, and which is remarkable for human potential. I suffer from allergies from a very young kid since I was born to food allergies and dust and yeah, close places, many different, but mostly food. When I will eat the allergen, I will get my throat inflamed and I would not be able to breathe. Now, this allergy took me into the journey of self-care and learning about healing and about all these modalities, because before that I didn't care about other people, in a sense, like you care about yourself, you live life, but when something happens and you cannot breathe anymore, then you start to ask questions. And this is how I got into the path of healing. It wasn't a choice, it was a life journey. And what I want to say, since I'm starting practicing the different modalities with breathwork, cold exposure, Wim Hof method, Wim Hof himself that I met in the meeting, I start to notice first my allergies start to be much less. And then when I had allergic reaction, suddenly I was able to notice first in my head that I have allergic reaction and to choose my response. Basically, what is the scientific language talk is control the autoimmune response, control the autonomic nervous system. We all can control it, but suddenly I figure out I am able to control it, which is a great, great shift, because learning theoretical and manifest it in the human body, it's another level. So suddenly I saw that I'm able to do it. So I will eat allergic food. I will say, the body will say, hey, Yati, you have allergy. What should I do? I would say the body don't respond. So we will not respond, basically no allergic reaction. Then I was like, yeah, I figured it out, I'm good. Then I had a very serious allergic reaction in Amsterdam. Then I realized it's depend on the allergen and the quantity. If it's a big quantity, then my method doesn't work. Then 3 months after in Costa Rica, I had very serious allergic reaction. I barely walked to the hotel I was staying, to the Airbnb, and I decided to sit and to examine. What means to examine? I was sitting in the dark in the Airbnb. I knew I have hospital, so I can always go if I need to. What I'm sharing now is extreme. I don't recommend nobody do this at home. I mean, you can die easily. I just trusted myself deeply that I'm able to deal with it in a conscious way. So what I did, I sit in meditation and I observe. And the nose blocked completely and I was barely breathing through the mouth, like, so there is no air. So I took the oxygen oximeter I had nearby and I measure, it say 96, which is okay, but it's pretty low. Now, if it drops more, I do have to go to the hospital. So I was measuring myself. Then I remember by the Wim Hof method, we learn if we do a few rounds of the Wim Hof method, we are able to release a huge amount of adrenaline that will take down the inflammatory mark that I couldn't breathe. And then I said, let's try it. it took only 5-6 breaths, just like this. Suddenly, the more airflow start to open, and I measure. Suddenly, I raise from 94 in the first time, then to 96 in a few minutes, then to 98. In all this, it's 5 minutes that I was able to release adrenaline in 5 minutes. And if I would go to hospital, they would give me adrenaline shot. So I realized how to do it myself with my own body. And I did it in a safe way. And then I did something that we all have the capacity. I tell the body, you know what? Now you deal with it. I'm going to watch TV and you fix the problem. But I programmed the body so I won't watch TV. And after 10, 20 minutes, all the reaction was gone. Now this is possible. And so first is understanding, then practicing for years or months, and then seeing that we're able to reprogram ourselves and we don't have to go to that extreme like I did this extreme case. But it's really proved beyond any doubt, because even I had doubts that it's possible to do all these things. When it's coming to you for your own life that you can die, then you start to, so I saw it's possible. So this is remarkable. And again, we don't have to go to that extreme. We can taste it with the little things.
I think that's a good lesson, Yati, because one of the sessions in the 12-week is all about safety. And I think one of the key balances we want to have is this combination with safety, but not fear. By having very well-guided community, one is able to explore safely. You helped me a lot do this with the ice. You know, I was very lucky to have a very clear mindset. And a few months later, I was able to do long times. Once I did like 42 minutes at like 2 degrees, which was too much. And then I really felt like this, now it's getting to danger. But I never did it alone. I did it for several months with Dax that had trained both of us with you. And I saw the value, and he's a professional, and he was working as my personal trainer. So it wasn't me doing it one day crazy. It was like having someone. So I saw very much the value of learning together, because certain things that would not make sense to experiment alone can be done in a safe way. But I think it'll also be nice to share in this section, Yati, a little bit of how it has affected already something you care about a lot, which is surfing. We're very lucky to have in this extended group. We'll share more about some centers, but Health Excel is run by the president of the Surf Club of Surf Association of Costa Rica, who has some of the highest performance athletes. And I know you've been practicing this for a long time, and it's a big passion of yours to stay healthy, to surf. But you can share you found that breathwork training gave you at such a high level of performance.
Yeah, so with the surfing, I started practicing in San Jose, the Wim Hof breathing daily. First 6 months, I didn't practice like the ice baths because I didn't have access, but I was doing daily the breathing and twice a day sometimes in different variation. I went surfing and I was suddenly surprised I was able to surf 30% more, meaning usual session I'm surfing is 2 hours, that I feel exhausted, and this session I was suddenly surfing 3 hours and feeling the same. I was like, whoa, wow, this is something big going on here. I start to explore and I saw that prolonging the session. Second is preventing injuries. If one do it before that, one is much more alert, focused, and taking the session in the right way. Third, it's great for recovery. You had a good session of surfing, and sometimes it's very hard to take down the adrenaline, especially if we surf big waves or dangerous situation on very crowded beaches, or sometimes it's crowded, so it's not easy. And when I would come home and I will do the breathing a few rounds and I will go to rest a little bit, it will really, it's amazing for recovery. This is about the breathing. The cold water really helped me to see that if I expose myself for ice water prior to the surfing, this is really first prevent injury again, because it's more blood flow and more alertness. And it was able to give me this awakening of strength and being present in the water that usually it will take me half an hour, 40 minutes to kind of arrive to the ocean. I was able to arrive much more quicker. So this was a very good plus. Yeah, the cold exposure, definitely one can use it for recovery after surfing. So yeah, it's definitely very complementary for surfers,
And I
and
think,
the
yeah,
community is fully into it.
so this is a very good example, and we'll keep it at this because we're going to start next week with each topic. But one of the pioneers in taking ice baths to the next level is the creator of the best ice baths really in the world, like the Morosco ice bath. They're built at a level of specifications, they're grounded, they can create their own ice. They were on the radar until Joe Rogan made them very famous. But the founder, himself an engineer, started doing this kind of explorations himself. And when I worked with Dax, I was on Yati. I've been doing that much physical exercise in my youth. So I was to the gym at high strength. And we saw that doing the ice prior and the breathwork prior gave me 30 or 40 more percent capacity with better control. And it was like magic. Okay, I was beginning, and all of a sudden, I did the same exercise as the previous week with people that were like in the same class, and I could do 30% more. The founder of Morosco got what happens to many men in their 50s, which is enlarged prostate. He thought he could do better than the typical medical system, and started to do a lot of research. He's an engineer and a scientist, and a professor. And he saw that exercise, there were some studies that showed that when men do the ice before physical exercise, their levels of testosterone actually go up by a lot. His had gone up by like 300%. Many men are told in their 50s that they need a hormone replacement. We'll share some of this in like week 8. And then he was able, within months, to reverse the enlarged prostate, to keep his testosterone level like of a 25-year-old man, even though he's in his 50s. And this doesn't get researched as much because the people who started using the ice bath for recovery were, let's say, Formula One, tennis players, the Tour of France, where every day you need to recover to perform high again. And of course, it helps recovery. But the Thrive Beyond is exactly to connect with the people like Tom Seeger of Morosco, who are pushing real science to find solutions to problems that we used to be told just have a chronic problem in life. And the beauty of this is kind of meeting internal wisdom with personal science. So that's why we're very lucky to have in our team medical doctors, personal trainers, the top center in Caribbean and Central America for sound healing, the top place for high performance athletes, because there's many avenues for this. Like, one of the problems is that often this gets reduced to a single group. And maybe for people who do the Tour of France, all they need is ice after 400 kilometers at super high power to recover. But then we're leaving outside a lot of cases where most of the interesting science could be happening. And that's why part of what we're building, in addition to the core community that is a lot around Costa Rica, but I'm here in New York, actually activating one of the beautiful places in the north of Connecticut with a good friend that I met through Blue Spirit, who herself is into yoga, meditation, and other areas. And we're to blend these practices Then you realize that if you do sauna and cold together, you have an ability to solve problems we did not know. For example, many athletes develop a very heart to pump blood to, but their arteries never get the vasodilation and vasoconstriction that only heat and cold can give. And they may start having problems in their blood pressure because a strong heart with rigid veins is a problem, even though they look very healthy. And all of a sudden you have these athletes that can lift a lot of weight having cardiovascular problems. So part of this accompaniment is to see it as a journey. We're going to start these 12 weeks, but in 2025, we're going to start also developing content. And I want to now go to the last section, which will explain how Thrive Beyond operates. It has this online virtual content to navigate all the protocols, research, and key practitioners. But it has at the core a very grounded practice, which is it has centers that are already attuned to this. In addition to the experts we have working with us, we have centers like Bhaktishala, like La Colmena, like Health Excel, where you can go and practice. And now you can go and practice with protocols, communities, safety. We hope to have also in Nosara 1 or 2 places. We already know very attuned allies. So we have this online learning and virtual community on WhatsApp. We have the centers of practice, where we also build community. And we have what I think is the most exciting part, which is if anyone wants to go deeper in a specific area, sometimes people are already spending a lot of money per month, having maybe a nutritionist that helps them with a part, maybe a psychologist and mindset, maybe someone that's their personal trainer or a gym, maybe invest in classes about breathwork. But all of this right now often lives in compartments that don't talk to each other. So maybe the nutritionist is not even very attuned to what breathwork and ice work can do for losing visceral fat or producing brown fat with new mitochondria. So one of the things we also offer in the context of Thrive Beyond is a kind of concierge service to navigate places and practitioners that can help you do this. So we have a nutritionist who are very experienced in this, who themselves have reversed cancer using nutrition as a core element. But no one makes with only one thing. Mindset and breath and ice and nutrition and fasting, all of this come together. And the thing that I'm most excited, if this existed, I would have signed up for it. But when I started trying to learn, I realized that I was very lucky to live at a place like Blue Spirit. But even in Blue Spirit, people often came for retreats. And the name retreat gives me often the impression of people in a place like where I'm here in Manhattan, having this very active, busy life, going to a beautiful blue zone of Costa Rica to learn about longevity and stuff. And then they come back to, let's say, normal. Very hard to integrate what they learn. It's almost like they burn out and retreat to burn out. What we're inviting everyone in this community to start and keep having, we're going to have some beautiful outings to go also in retreats to Chiripo Mountain, to Amsterdam,
In
to
March.
Pachamama. In March next year, we'll have that beautiful thing. We'll have a very beautiful event also in December in Nosara. So you have a series of things. So you should not think of this as a retreat from your life and then back to a little less functional way of being, but activations that have accompaniment. So then you have this core content to know what's possible, centers of practice, and a concierge facility that Yati and I have curated, so that if you go to concerns that are not our expertise, tell you who to with that is to guide you on, say, maybe a very detailed need that you may have. And that is how also the practitioners have felt very excited to work with us, because sometimes they're a little frustrated that they give this very beautiful, helpful advice, but then it's hard for people to integrate, or they get contradictory advice, or they get advice online and it's hard to navigate. So I think we have covered the core of motivation, the core of the 12-week structure of content and practice, the core of the community in WhatsApp, online, and the centers. And we'll just let Yati, if you want to mention something else, but also open to Jan, who's with us, if there's any core questions that you would like to understand before we start next week, the 12-week program.
So yeah, Pablo, thank you so much again. Beautiful presentation and beautiful ability to take everything in account. Jan, brother, if you have anything you would like to share, it's really a pleasure have you here with us in this first meeting online, the visual meeting.
Thank you both, Yati and Pablo, for your expertise, your energy, your willingness and openness to share it and to really to be of service to not only myself, but to the greater community. I'm excited just watching my progress over the last month or so, my experience with breath and cold exposure and going to work out right after that and seeing how the body reacts, to be getting more into nature, to definitely focusing more on my mindset and the way that I interact with food, which is something I struggled with many years, with gaining and losing weight extreme ways. So I do feel these strong synchronicities. You know, I landed here for community, and as these practices were introduced to me, I see all of these pieces becoming integrated into this incredible piece. And so I'm excited about the different offerings. I'm really privileged and honored to be part of this group. And yeah, I'm blessed to be part of this. So thank you both. And
Beautiful.
yeah, aho.
Thank you. And thank you. Yeah, and I'm going to close with two core principles. Next week, we'll explain our core values. They include things, for example, like having a beginner mindset. Here, no one is the expert. Like Yati clearly has more breath work done, but he's coming with the fresh eyes. The core of what we're going to do in community is to operate from trust. I know you partly joined, who are joined because Yati, and you meet her and you trust what she's doing, and soon, like, you understand the trust. We're living in a society that's a little bit over-individualized and low on trust. But the answer is not to trust anything. The answer is to find what is worthy of trust. And the core of this is to examine, as we work together in community, okay, when there is high trust and a direct experience, these are the two core principles, then the content is not just mental. You're able to say, let's call it an enthusiastic yes to what you want to do. And when that happens, then you don't need to rely even on discipline as the only way to make your commitments. There's a kind of shared excitement. You find yourself what is most trustworthy. And maybe you and I were not that good in our past at finding a trustworthy way to manage our nutrition. So we don't need to have everything sorted out. It's kind of this dynamic dialogue to say, wow, we can now trust that breathwork and eyes and exercise is working. The things where we don't feel so solid, how do we complement them? And we want to be realistic. That's why we didn't say, let's make our 3-hour videos every time, 5 times a week, because there's excess content. So I thank you very much for coming perspective that in this, I want to thank Yati a lot, because more than his expertise, he's been a bit the connector between us. Like, I trust Yati, you trust Yati, who trusted the methods that Wim Hof gave in the fundamentals, trusted how to take it beyond. And I want to keep all of us with this question: how do I find things that feel very trustworthy? Because when it's very trustworthy, then we combine the last element, direct experience, a community that has high trust. And then you have like a sense of wonder. It's like, okay, like it's less that, okay, I need to do this, not even sure why. And we're going to work very much in the last part of the program on checking everyone's purpose. some friends of mine are coming here. They don't necessarily want to look great and be on a magazine and be Instagram influencers of fitness. They want to play with their young kids. They want to start healthier vitality for that. They want to have the kind of mindset, breath, physical body, and presence to be the father they want to be. In my case, I actually am not that interested even in my own, let's say, external physical fitness. But I feel if I want to be of service, I don't want my body to only take my head to meetings about longevity. I want to embody what I want to share. So one of the things that would be very nice as we go through these possibilities, direct experience, trust, with a sense of what is your purpose for doing this? And when one tunes into your purpose, then following through doesn't even require discipline. It's almost like the joy of feeling accompanied to what you already wanted to do. So I'll leave that very much open in your heart. If you see what's interesting, we're not trying to fill your mind